Good evening, good day, good morning, good whenever you're watching this. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Flyer. Hey, we got the whole family here today. Everybody say hi.
About
Yay!
time. Here
Woo,
we go.
yay! Taylor, Jordan, and Derek. If this has been waiting in the wings
A
for a
long
little
time
bit.
coming.
Yes, we've been
Long
waiting
time
for
coming.
the perfect Friday, mostly it's Friday for all of us, where we can line up specifically with our schedules. But here we are. We're back to talk about the fantasy flea market. We're buying and selling and buying, haggling, bartering, whatever you want to call it. Many faces, many names, a lot of people across the fantasy landscape. We can finally start to make some assumptions about teams because we're 3 weeks in and the stats are somewhat reliable. Somewhat, kind of, maybe once in a while. So we're gonna start talking about bolstering rosters. On the show earlier this week, I kind of chit chatted about saving some of your teams that are in the fantasy ER, if you will. And a couple of these names I think are close, but are not quite into that realm. So these are mostly some studs or maybe some depressing performers that we have to chit chat about. So we're going to start off with a great suggestion that came from Jordan, and it was kind of on the back of my mind, but this is Jordan's idea. Jordan, you get credit for this. We're going to start with Jerome Ford. I, Man, he did really well against the Titans, and now his next five matchups are Ravens, 49ers, Colts, Seahawks, and Cardinals in that order. Um, a couple of issues that may creep up. Kareem Hunt getting involved in this pass game and this run game. Pass game was kind of split 50-50 between Hunt and Ford last week. The offense is actually pretty good. 1,099 yards through 3 games, which is seventh. They're third in turnovers with 7. And they have they're middle of the pack, have about 5 yards per play. But as far as no Nick Chubb, this workload is as good as it can get. Are you guys buying Ford as a top 20 running back this year? Taylor, well, let's hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, I can get behind top 20. I mean, in 2 games without Nick Chubb, he's had close to a 50% snap share. With Hunt coming in, I don't really see that changing too much. I think Hunt obviously is going to be more involved in the passing game, and honestly, beforehand, Ford was only getting like 4 targets without Hunt, and with Hunt there, granted it was Hunt's first game back, he got 3 targets. I don't think the target aspect is something we're going to be counting on anyways with Ford. So yeah, I can see him as a top 20 getting the Nick Chubb fill-in role.
Okay. Jordan, your take. This is you're on the hot seat now. This is your
I
suggestion.
am 100% buying. Even though he's only averaging 3.9 yards a carry as of right now, he hasn't been utilized in the amount of snaps, but in the red zone, he is extremely strong, able to score points for the Browns, push the ball in the end zone, and he's going to get his carries. He's going to eventually get his big breaks. But I think this dude knows the opportunity that he has, and I don't think he's gonna let it pass him. He has been phenomenal since he got called up, and I think he's going to be a guy to really watch in the red zone. Not necessarily down to down making big plays all the time, but he is going to score you points in the red zone, and that's why I'm 100% buying.
And it seems that way through the one game so far. He has a touchdown both in the air and on the ground. But bringing to point that you say his red zone is going to be key, and I don't think Kareem Hunt really can step on him much there. So it's good to see. I'm also in on Jerome Ford. I'm a buyer. You want to know how much of a buyer? I drafted him last year in our dynasty league, and I still have him.
I tried to get him from you a couple times.
Yeah, a lot of people did, and now I'm selling him.
But before this season,
well,
the second I saw Nick Chubb's go down, I immediately pulled him off waivers Nobody even tried to because nobody was expecting him to be great. But I just had a feeling, and I pulled him immediately, and he paid off big for me last week in fantasy league.
In our dynasty league, that's what it's about. It's about holding on to the young guys, especially on cheap contracts, because we have to worry about salary cap, which is something that a lot of leagues don't. But you hold on to the young guys because you never know. And then the same thing, like you said, just like you did with waivers, I was like, well, let's see what he does. And I started him last week, and he gave me 20 points. So you can't go wrong with it. I think Jerome Ford is a buy now option 100%. I think you should trust. Kareem Hunt was involved in the game and didn't hurt Ford's usage whatsoever. It was a tough Tennessee defense, so his yards per carry I'm kind of throwing out the wayside. I want to see what he does in these next really 4 matchups. Ravens and 49ers are tough, but Colts and Seahawks are teams that he can run and perform on. So I want to see how those 4 go. But I'm right now, if you had to put it up against a wall, I would be buying him 100%. I'm in our dynasty league. I'm selling him for a borderline first right now because of his workload, and that's just the fact of the matter. No Nick Chubb the rest of the year. Jerome Ford could increase his value tenfold. Staying on running backs, we will move to our next. I guess we'll say commodity to buy or sell. Rachaad White, who has seen 70% of snaps in all 3 games. He has 100% of the goal line snaps, which is crucial for fantasy points. It's where your fantasy points live. Tampa Bay offense has been better than expected. I think that's no understatement. Even though they had a bad Monday night game against the Eagles, you can kind of expect that against the Eagles defense. White is involved in the pass game I think he has 10 targets in 3 games, so he's fairly involved. Next 5 matchups for White are Saints, Lions, Falcons, Bills, and Texans. Are you buying or selling Rachaad White? We'll start with Jordan.
I'm thinking a buy. With him getting 70% of the snaps against these next 5 opponents, I think they're going to be able to push into the red zone and be able to get the ball across the goal line with him. Like you said, fantasy points are usually in the red zone, and I don't see him having big yardage games, but I do see them using him in 3rd and short situations on the goal line, getting in. And in leagues like my own league, we've got it set up where you get points for a running back getting a first down. So I think he's going to be key in situations on 3rd downs to score points in leagues like that, but as well as getting across the goal line with getting 70% of the snaps there's no chance he doesn't score.
Taylor, your thoughts?
I'm a hold, and I'm leaning towards a sell. And I, unfortunately, if you have him, I think you missed the opportunity to sell, which was against Chicago. I mean, you look at his points, and not necessarily his usage. His usage is definitely there, but you look at his points, fantasy points. That is, only good game was against Chicago. Chicago is a mess.
That's an understatement.
and so, and then I also want to bring up Sean Tucker. I think after the bye week, we see him start to become more of a thing. I don't think he's going to take over a ton until he, I think he's talented enough to break off and show his potential. And then at that point, you're going to see it start to, the usage become, I don't know if it'll be 50-50, 60-40, but Sean Tucker, in my opinion, is more talented than Rachaad White. And I think at some point during this season, it's going to become at least 50-50.
I don't hate that take. My pause for the Sean Tucker is that they haven't, and now they can't because Chase Edmonds is on IR. So I guess you can take this with a grain of salt. But for the most part, they didn't get Chase Edmonds involved when Chase Edmonds was there, which was the first 2 weeks. He went on IR before week 3. Now we go into week 4. As a top, I mean, right now he's like the 4th ranked running back by PFF right now, which is kind of crazy. I'm kind of with you, Taylor. I'm more of on a sell. I have Rachaad White in the same league. I'm kind of banking. He's going off of 1 good game against Chicago. Everything else was like 8 and 9 fantasy points. He had that 21 spot against Chicago. He's a sit for the channel for fantasy flyers this week against the Saints. Saints are a very underrated running defense. Actually, I shouldn't even say underrated. The stats kind of show they are a good running defense. Out of the next 5 matchups, the Lions and the Texans are the only ones that are really juicy and that he can kind of go off with.
Mm-hmm.
I like Rachaad White if you're holding on the plan that he's going to end up staying the running back 1 and Tampa Bay. I think Todd Bowles overall is very happy with him as the running back. I also think that they're probably knowing they're going to have to replace Mike Evans next year. They're probably not going to take on the running back situation as well. But that doesn't mean that Tucker or Edmonds or some other 1-year deal doesn't come along and that ends up being split back next year. So selling him, if you're gonna sell him, you got to wait for another boom week and then you got to take the chance there. And otherwise, like I said, it's not a bad hold right now. He's not doing bad. The rest of the running backs are doing bad for various reasons. For various reasons. Some of them are injury. A lot of them are injury. Eckler, Saquon, Aaron Jones, even Montgomery now passed him because of his huge night last night. But still, like there's a lot of injuries that are affecting that, and that's something to consider when you're talking about Rachaad White being a top 15 or 20 running back of the year.
Yeah.
Speaking
I mean, I don't hate his
go
usage.
ahead.
I don't hate his usage, but I just don't like the fantasy points we're getting so far. And he's got a tough schedule, like you said. He's got 2 opportunities in the next 6 weeks that might be decent.
I think those are. I think they're good opportunities. Go ahead, Jordan.
I think him going 50-50 with another running back would actually help him. And I know that's a hot take over here, but if they're going to utilize him 70% in the red zone, he can pick up those points without having to have a bunch of usage and stay healthy. And if he can prove that he can score in the red zone, that's why I think he'd be a buy. I do sort of agree with the hold, but if we see this week that he can really score in the red zone, I think he's a solid chance at your running back 2 position, maybe even your flex.
This is a good test. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
He had 91% of snaps in week 3, which again, tough Eagles defense is what it is. Sean Tucker has not seen more than 17 snaps in any game, but I agree with you. I think if he goes 50-50, what's his, I don't think his fantasy production where it is right now takes a hit.
Yeah,
I think that's the crazy part is that he still ends up with 10 or 12 points, as his ceiling and 7 or 8 is his floor. And that's what you're going to get out of Rachaad White. So excellent points there. I just brought up the name and I will continue. He's our third commodity to talk about. David Montgomery. This man has been the guy in Detroit this year, signed for 3 years. They then drafted Jahmyr Gibbs and refused to play him more than 30% of snaps for some reason. Montgomery has 5 touchdowns through 3 games. Wait, 5 touchdowns? Do I have that right? I feel like now it's more than that. I feel like it's like 8 now.
Oh no, you're right. It is 5.
It is 5? Okay, so that is including last night. I almost got psyched out for a second. 5 touchdowns through 3 games, missed obviously week 3, but generally he's been the guy in that backfield. Goal line guy. Gibbs is the top pick, has the better skill set. Ran the ball well when Monty was out in week 3. So I'm kind of surprised to see how Thursday Night Football went last night against the Packers. But in general, are you buying or selling Monty as the long-term RB1 this season? Not long-term beyond this season.
I'll go first.
I was about to say, so I didn't prompt anyone. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. I'll go first. I am, unfortunately. I cringe when I say that because I want more Gibbs, but it's clear sort of the plan that they have in place, and I was not. This is not my feeling after week 1. After week 1, I was still in the boat that at some point Gibbs is gonna command a lot more shares. Whether it was more than 50-50, I'm not entirely sure, but I told a friend, trade Montgomery away. He had a great week. Gibbs is only going to take on more, and I am kind of regretting that advice for him. I mean, I think that the trade was in his favor.
Sure about that?
But what we're seeing with Montgomery is great usage, and he's honestly making the most of it. So, yeah, if I can get a running back that's 70 plus snaps, and I mean, last night he had 32 attempts. That's insanity. And Gibbs even had what was his usage? He had 37% snap share, so not great. But
yeah, but that's a lot of 2 running backs. That Montgomery had 71% of snaps.
Yeah, and that's not even his highest. First week was 79. So and he's coming off the energy.
He was on pace to match that.
So they clearly want to use him this way, and it's working. So I don't know that they're going to change that.
Jordan, your thoughts?
I don't think this is a question about buy or sell on Montgomery. I think this is more of a question of buy or sell on the Lions, because if they're going to continue to play this way, he's going to score. But we all know how the Lions are. Are they going to surprise us, or are they going to disappoint us? And it's going to happen all of a sudden, like it always does. They're either going to keep on this track or they're going to fall off the map. So my gut feeling is telling me that they're going to fall off the map and that Montgomery is going to fall with them. But I would love to see the Lions go out and win a Super Bowl. Let's be honest. I think half of America would be delighted to see them actually win something. But I think this all comes down to whether they perform as a team and not necessarily Montgomery, because he's going to get the ball. He's going to get his chances. But will the Lions keep this up, or will they fail Montgomery? That's the real question here.
Valid points. Even week 2, he got hurt in the halfway through the third. He was on pace for another 50 snaps. Montgomery was, and Jahmyr Gibbs only got 30 to 30 snaps because Montgomery got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gibbs, on the week he was off, Gibbs did well, but he only had 60% snaps at 42. They gave Craig Reynolds 20 of those. I don't think this nope, not Denver. Wrong. Let me hold on. Where is that? Okay. Anyways, I don't think this Detroit team is putting a lot of faith in Jahmyr Gibbs right now. And
yeah, I think it's just the receiving game is where they want to use him, and he's going to be great there. But I'd like to see.
He takes a hit with Jameson Williams coming back.
Right.
So now what are you doing? You put what you now, and you can't outweigh Jameson Williams. He didn't play all of basically, I think it was 15 games he didn't play last year because of injury and whatnot. He hasn't played the first 4 this year, but he's the same. He was the 11th pick last year, if I'm not mistaken. So now you have an 11th and a 12th round pick, or 11th and 12th overall pick, excuse me. And who do you give? Is there not enough to go around? It almost makes it seem like signing Montgomery was the problem for this team instead of just making Jahmyr Gibbs your star back. And they didn't think that was a thing that could come about in the draft when they signed Montgomery. And all in all, it leads back to what I think what Jordan said, is that is this going to be a Montgomery problem or a Detroit problem?
Because you have to think of it this way. Is Gibbs really a problem, or is he a saving grace at the trade deadline? Do they trade him away? Do they pick up the last piece that they need with Montgomery being there?
No, if anything, Montgomery gets traded. Montgomery gets traded.
Utilizing him and they see him as a good way to get the final piece they need to win a Super Bowl, I could see them doing it just to shock America.
Just shock America.
I don't know about that one, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the age alone, I don't see how they do that, but he's playing well. I'll say that.
A few more.
There it is. Okay, I had to make sure my soundboard was working. The thing hasn't worked twice. Yeah, I don't know about that. Would be for them to trade away Jahmyr Gibbs would be silly. You had way more value in the pick at 12 when you were up on the clock. Why trade now? And at that point, that's why Montgomery, who is older and doesn't have the skill set in reality, Jahmyr Gibbs can learn what David Montgomery is doing. He's just smaller.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing. And
that's
these
what gives me some
backs.
hesitation. Yeah.
They like these bigger backs, and I get that. If they can ever stop falling in love with the idea of that, Montgomery would be the one to be traded by a mile first. Why? Because at the end of the day, you spent a first-round pick on Jahmyr Gibbs. You spent nothing on David Montgomery other than money you haven't paid him yet. So if you can find somebody who needs a running back, I can list 8 teams off the top of my head. Then that's somebody who I could see going. Jahmyr Gibbs going somewhere is just absolutely insane.
That's my hot take for the year right there. And you can quote me on it. I think Jahmyr Gibbs will be traded from the Lions in 2023 at the trade deadline.
Do you know the way they're using him though? Like nobody would be like, "Oh no!" Especially if he went to one of those like 8 teams who could use a running back. Yeah. Like imagine if the Rams, who now actually have their first round picks and stuff going forward, imagine if they gave up like a first and a fourth in this next draft for Jahmyr Gibbs. Would anybody, any Jahmyr Gibbs person, any Jahmyr Gibbs owner in any form of fantasy, would they be sad? No. Um, I'm selling Montgomery, and I'm going with the idea that they're not going to trade Gibbs, no matter how much the Rams want to poke and prod. I don't think this. I'm not settled on David Montgomery being a 7 or 8 week steadfast hold, and then it goes to the 50-50. And I know he's like goal line, and then Jahmyr Gibbs can have like a down of running once in a while and the pass game, and that's fine. You can't just only make Gibbs the passing back and only make Montgomery the running back. It doesn't work that way.
I mean, that's what they did with Swift. I know Swift isn't Gibbs. I would rather have Gibbs than Swift.
Swift ran. People don't remember it, but Swift ran, and he's showing you right now in Philadelphia. Just want to let people know that.
I mean last season. Before last season, definitely he ran a lot.
Well, and that's, at least for a year they got away with it. But I don't think that you can just sit there and go, well, put Montgomery on because we're running the ball. Oh, now we're going to pass it to somebody. Let's put Gibbs on the field. It isn't going to work that way.
Yeah. Real quick, buy or sell Jahmyr Gibbs in general?
Buy.
I'm selling.
Not dynasty, redraft.
Especially right now, I'm buying.
Okay.
Especially right now, I'm buying. His price is no lower than it is right now because people are finally looking at what I said after week 1, which is, why are they not putting Gibbs out there? And people said, well, wait, it's week 1. You're right. Okay. Now we're done with week 4 because they've gone through 4 games. And now people are finally starting to go, so what's going on with Jahmyr Gibbs? I'm buying. His price has never been lower. Not to mention, David Montgomery is also injury prone. We already saw that once this year.
Yeah.
Doesn't take long for him to do something and miss 5 to 6 weeks. And now Jahmyr Gibbs is steady in that 50-50. I'll take the gamble on that if you can get rid of a 4th wide receiver or a 2nd tight end on your team that you don't need. I'll take it for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, if you can get him cheap and you're in a good spot to, let him sit on your bench until he goes off and then start using him, by all means. I'm holding on him. I have him in at least one league.
I think that's smart. Next up, we're going to go to this is a pick that me and Jordan will have fun talking about. Anthony Richardson. Despite sitting out week 3, Anthony Richardson has some incredible intangibles for a rushing quarterback. His arm accuracy seems so much improved from last year. He was the QB 8 through 2 weeks. Can't include week 3 because he didn't play. But given how the QB quarterbacks ahead of them in week 3 played, he probably would be like QB 5 or 6 right now because that's rushing quarterbacks for you. But despite the ranking, he has the trust of his offense. They already look way better than last year. Colts without him beat the Ravens in a close contest. So as a team, looks like they're progressing. Michael Pittman kind of ties into this because Michael Pittman has been a monster this year. Are you buying or selling Anthony Richardson as a top 10 quarterback? And the first person I want to hear from is Jordan. Come on, lay it on me.
I'm not buying it because as a Colts fan, I don't want to say this, but I think we have another Tua Tagovailoa situation here with his concussions, with him running as much as he is, with the leaks in the line. I think he's going to take another hit that takes him out. Our backup is excellent, but
Gardner
Minshew he was phenomenal, and he's running the offense well. But I just hate to say it, but being the concussion that he took, I just think that he's going to get re-injured with it, and he's going to be out much longer. And
he's cleared, so
he's cleared now. But the point is once you get one, they come a lot easier. And being a running quarterback, he takes more hits. And I just think that he's going to make it a couple more weeks before it happens again. And week by week, if he's healthy, I buy. But I don't see him lasting long with this year, specifically because of the concussions.
Taylor?
Oof. I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. It's unfortunate to hear. I'm more of an optimistic person. I'm definitely buying. I'm buying. Honestly, I would buy top 7 rest of the year, and I want to say top 5, but that's pushing it. I mean, he's got it. He's the next. He's doing what Fields was doing the end of last season, and Fields. They're trying to. We don't need to talk about Fields, but I love this guy. I have him.
No, we don't.
I have him in at least 2 leagues.
Talk about the Bears.
Yeah, I have him in at least 2 leagues, and I'm all for it. Obviously, it sucked that he, had the concussion, and I don't want to see it happen again. It is more apt with the rushing quarterbacks, but I'm in. I'm willing to take the chance on him.
Well, I'm very torn on this because I I like what he in the 2 games. I like what he did with the offense, and it's a very small sample size. Um, I think he has the ability if he can calm that, which is the first thing that Trevor Lawrence said. He said, "Calm down when you're running, slide, slide, don't get hurt." And what happens? Literally a week later, he gets concussed. So if if he can get that under control, he's going to be absolutely fine. I'm not selling until he gets like his third in like a year. And if that comes after the trade deadline, then pick someone up off your waiver wire. There's always QBs there. They may not be stellar, but it's better than a zero there. And at that point, honestly, concussions that after that point, you can sell him during the off season if you're doing dynasty. You can not draft him next year if you redraft. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. I'm not the most concerned about the concussions yet. Is he aggressive? Yes. He's also incredibly young and he has a lot to learn.
He's a monster too.
Yeah,
6'4", 244.
he's a
He's
big dude.
big boy.
Which is another reason why it's 3 times more important he gets used to just sliding. I really like him long term in redraft. I think any rushing quarterback has upside. For the rest of this year, I'm gonna buy top 10. I think he stays healthy. If he doesn't and he ends up not being a top 10, I'll fall on my sword and that's perfectly fine. You can't not at this point. The Colts have put so much stock into him. Shane Steichen has put so much stock into him that, and they rightfully should because it's paid off. I mean, Michael Pittman wasn't anywhere close to this last year with Matt Ryan,
Mhm.
or Sam Ellinger, or random football player that's been generated by Madden number 16. Whoever they started out there, Michael Pittman couldn't make them anything better. They are working together great. And here's the best part about this is that in at least the 1 week he's had Zach Moss did amazing. So now we have a running back who isn't Jonathan Taylor, who's doing fantastic. We have a quarterback who is arguably already in midseason form despite his injuries. And then you have wide receivers that are going to get better, or besides Michael Pittman, Josh Downs and Alec Pierce. I'm looking at you. I'm gonna try and buy him, but I understand the hesitation on if he gets hurt. I can't. I'm holding or buying. I guess either one.
I think the biggest thing though for Michael Pittman is not judging anything off of last season, because
Yeah.
last season it wasn't his fault. He wasn't getting the ball. The offensive line for the Colts was absolutely atrocious,
A lot better.
the quarterback couldn't even get time to look in Michael Pittman's direction.
Yep.
So I think this year is a true year that's going to show us what his career is going to look like. Because last year you can't even put it in a comparison to the season at all.
It's breakout pace right now. I just want to point that out. He has 70, I think 68 or 70 fantasy points in 3 games. It's no, not that many. Sorry, I'm doing bad math. Horrible math. 50 some. It's 50 some fantasy points.
For Richardson?
Oh, for Pittman.
Oh, for Pittman. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. No, Pittman is having a great year. And to separate note, and I think we don't have to go in too much in depth in this, but if you have the option to buy Michael Pittman, buy Michael Pittman. You're not going to get him for anything less than like another stud running back. Like, honestly, if you offered me Rachaad White for Michael Pittman in a redraft league, I want something else with Rachaad White. So, but Michael Pittman is a buy now. He is the guy in Indianapolis, and I love if they're not going to give a contract to Jonathan Taylor, give it to Michael Pittman. Damn it.
And I think if we go back to the first episode where I said we just need to wait for him,
I
wish I wouldn't have said that. I wish I would have just said trust in him. But
we're eating our crow.
But I'm eating my crow right now because that man is balling in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Next up, this one should be relatively quick. CeeDee Lamb, currently the wide receiver 19 in PPR leagues. Dallas offense looks like it's kind of settling, but the opportunities it has had hasn't looked amazing. That's coming from a Dallas fan. The defense really has won their 2 games for them. Lamb has less than 12 points in PPR formats in 2 of 3 weeks. Buying or selling? I'm going to try and sell him right now. I know that sounds weird, but this is a great wide receiver class. If I can get a draft pick in Dynasty, great. If I can get another wide receiver who has a higher floor right now, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, I'm selling for him. That's a sell for me. Taylor,
This is just, there was no caveat, just a general.
just buy or sell, yeah.
Yeah, they haven't looked great. Um, I mean, in redraft, I'm probably gonna hold. In Dynasty, I might try and sell.
That's
Um,
that's fair.
yeah, I would, wait for another big performance and then try to sell them.
I
Jordan?
think I'm more of a hold here, just because I don't think we've seen enough body of work from them with how inconsistent they've been. So I don't think you lose much by keeping him, and I don't think you gain much by selling him. So
That's a
I'd
hold. Yeah. Next up, Jerry Jeudy. This man, okay, so we understand he missed a week. He's been hampered by offensive woes when he's in there. He's the wide receiver 71 right now in PPR leagues. He has been outscored by Nick Westbrook, Akina, DJ Chark, and Nelson Aguilar. I bring up those names and I select them because just like Jeudy, they have also missed one game out of the 3 that have occurred. Russell Wilson does look better, but the team is not seeing those results. It's pretty clear. The Broncos are looking more and more like the winners of that trade Seattle's looking like more and more the winner of the trades with the Broncos. Are you selling or buying Jeudy as a fantasy wide receiver? I'm going to say top 30 right now.
As a Dynasty owner, I'm frustrated.
I forgot you have him in Dynasty. Yeah, put him down.
The talent, god damn, I don't want to sell him, but it's just, even with Russell Wilson, it's not happening. So I would wait until after this week because hopefully against Chicago, it's a good week. And then you have an opportunity to get something more for him. But they seem to like Mims. There's more rumors of them talking about trading him. If they do actually trade him, I might, at least in Dynasty,
Depends.
hold.
Yeah, depends on where he goes.
In redraft, I would wait till after this week and probably try to sell him.
Jordan?
I agree. I think against the Bears, I think you keep him and see what happens and hope for a big boom, and then get rid of him as quickly as possible. I don't think Denver is going to do him any good. The only thing that they could do to make him look good is give him his own office. But
I'll tell you, and this is all I'm going to say about Jerry Jeudy so far this year. I'm the Russell Wilson owner in Dynasty. I'm the Cortland Sutton owner in Dynasty. I'm not a fan of either one of them right now. And Jerry Jeudy is underperforming both of them pretty well. So I will sum it up like this.
Okay, let's see here. Toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper.
Okay. So moving along from that, let's go on to Hunter Henry, who is the tight end 3 in PPR through 3 games. We're gonna ignore Sam Laporta's explosion last night for the moment. Passing offense in New England doesn't seem amazing, but there also isn't really a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 in parentheses yet, question mark. Pass options are just up in the air. Other tight ends aren't performing up to expectations yet. I'm not going to name some of those. Kyle Pitts. Are you buying or selling Hunter Henry as a top 10 tight end this year? I'm going to go first on this one. And I'm going to say I'm buying. And here's the reason why. Mac Jones loves tight ends when Juju Smith-Schuster can't do things. Also, Ramondre Stevenson can't be the only person who's involved in the short passing game. It just can't be. You need somebody else. Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte are probably the best wide receivers on that team, and they don't see the field enough, and that's crazy. So I like Hunter Henry. If you can get him relatively cheap, do it. I know he had a bad week 3, so that may have come and gone depending on how week 4 goes. But I am a buy on Hunter Henry. So Jordan, let's go to you, and we'll save the Patriots fan for last.
I think you buy here because they don't have anybody else. You don't. Their wide receivers aren't performing. Their tight end, the quarterback favors them, And then back to episode 1 where I was real high on Zeke. I clearly made a mistake there. He had a one decent game, but he doesn't have any other options. And he loves the tight end. And I think he's going to get points for you, even if the Patriots don't perform at all. I think he's going to be a tight end that gets you points in a league this year where tight ends really haven't performed well.
Real quick before Taylor goes, I just want to say, you talking about Zeke at all? Did you hear that? Did you? I just want to make sure you heard that. I know it's coming out. You're right. Good, Taylor. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I'm also a buy. Not only does Mac Jones like tight ends, but so does Bill O'Brien. So I'm all in on that perspective, and I guess this is coming, from the Patriots fan here, but I feel like this team can only go up, but yeah.
Not wrong.
Yeah, so and I think the down week, they played the Jets. Jets are a good defense. They're going to play Dallas. Dallas is also a good defense. So we'll see. I higher hopes this week, but yeah, I think he's one of their best options, and he's also a red zone target. So love that.
Wonderful. Last one we have for this episode. We have about 3 minutes. Jameson Williams. I threw this one in as a late ad because of the news that came from today. He's been reinstated for week 5. We don't know. Yeah, reinstated. We've been reinstated. For week 5, likely will be the wide receiver 2 behind Amon-Ra. Pass catching option 1 through 7. I don't know. No background, no experience. He's seen the football field for almost nothing. What are you buying or selling Jameson Williams right now? He's probably relatively cheap, I would imagine, in most formats or on waiver wires. So you don't have to buy him and all there. But are you buying him? I'm going to say real quick, I'll buy him and stash him if he goes off as a bench piece or if Amon-Ra gets hurt. There he is. That's the easiest thing I can say about him. He's a good prospect. He was a good prospect. He went to a good passing team and a solid offense. Take a chance on him, especially if you have a bench player who's just sitting there gathering dust. Jordan, you go first.
In a league where you have an IR spot and you picked him up in the draft and placed him there, I think you keep him. But if you have to go off waivers and give up somebody else right now, I think you sit. I think you sit and wait and see if somebody else picks him up because it's just not worth the risk.
Okay. Taylor?
I will echo what you said, Derek. I think he's a sneaky buy if you can stash him and you're able to let somebody go that's not performing or that you were taking a chance on and hasn't proven themselves. I think the upside here is worth it. Unfortunately, I did draft him, but my IR slot did not allow suspended players, so I was pretty pissed about that. But yeah, I think it's worth the upside.
Wonderful. Well, we are at the end of the fantasy flea market. Those are all the names that we had to chit chat about. Any last thoughts for you guys going into this week? Any words of encouragement for your teams? I have one for Dallas. Stop sucking. You guys, we got a Colts and a Patriots fans here. It's not like any of us are doing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Colts are doing pretty good, actually.
I say get it to the 40-yard line and let that kicker go for the Colts because he proved it last week.
They'll score more points that way. Taylor, what do you got? Any words? Any words for Ramondre Stevenson or Hunter Henry or Bill O'Brien or Keyshawn Boutte?
Not really.
Booty.
I do want to see more booty. Want to see more booty.
More booty. That's gonna do it for this episode of the Fantasy Flyer. For Jordan, for Taylor, for myself, we will sign out with the usual ritual. Have some Bob Barker. Have a good fantasy football weekend. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace out. Reminding you to help control the pet population and your pet spay their units. Goodbye, everybody.